Rise and shine, friends. We're talking about the Pacific in this episode. Please tell me if I missed any Pacific Island countries on this list, because I would feel terrible if one got missed out. Australia already did it. Next. New Zealand, same thing with you, buddy. Now, on to our first real one on this list, Fiji. It's a group of islands in the Pacific, just like, well, everything on this list. Their main languages are English, the native tongue Fijian, and Fiji Hindi, which is a Creole mix of Fijian and Hindi, which came over from Indian workers who were there. The capital is Suva, which is located right over here. The total land area is 7.1 square miles. Just kidding, 1,000 square miles, which sounds like a lot, but really, it's actually pretty small, especially because it's on an island. The population is around 880,000 people. Fiji was long settled by people, but British ships had discovered their islands and basically colonized them right afterwards, just like most islands in the Pacific. They gained independence from the UK in 1970, and their main exports are fish and coconuts, to nobody's surprise at all. Now, Samoa itself is made of 2 main islands and a few more little islets around it. Their main languages are Samoan and English, and their capital is Apia, I think, which is located right here. The land area itself is 1.1 thousand square miles and has around 200,000 people. Oddly enough, they used to be owned by New Zealand, but gained independence in 1962. They're both Pacific Island nations, so what's the problem? The problem is they're actually 2,000 miles away from each other with very different cultures. Their main exports are coconuts and this plant called kava, which upon consumption can get you high as a kite, so I guess that's why everyone likes it. The Federated States of Micronesia, or just F.S. Micronesia for short, are a long island chain. Their main languages are English and Yapese, which is a native language spoken on one of the islands to the left, I think. Their capital is Palikir, which is located right here, I think. Apparently, I saw that it was located on the island of Pohnpei, not Pompeii, but I couldn't get a straight answer. Maybe the whole island is the capital. The land area is 271 square miles, so it's pretty small. The population, though, is much bigger at 112.6 thousand people. Speaking of them, many people here still live in traditional Polynesian communal housing and fish for a living, which I actually think is pretty cool because it's similar to what original life was like there upon the first settlers arriving. Now, Palau itself, which looks like this, is a strange cultural blend between Japanese and Polynesian. Their main languages are Palauan and English, and their capital is, Nurulmud, I think. Boy, did I mess that up. It's located right here, and is supposedly the least populated capital city in the world, but I don't know how true that is. Their land area is 177 square miles and has 18,000 people on it. Originally, long after the original inhabitants settled here, European colonizers, like the crafty bunch they are, colonized the island, and then Japan annexed it, and then the US owned them, and then finally they became independent. They've had kind of a turbulent history. Tonga is an oddly shaped island whose main languages are Tongan and English. Their capital is Nuku'alofa and is located here. Their land area is around 288 square miles, and the population is close to 100,000 people, which is a lot more than I was actually expecting. It's been inhabited since at least 900 BC, and the natives originally survived on a diet of different kinds of fishes. But the reefs don't run dry, but you can't just eat fishes forever, so they decided to pay a little visit to the inland, and they started eating things like strange island bird duck things, and also iguanas for some weird reason. Then they really started to kick off when they made their oceanic empire, the Tui Tonga Empire, which stretched across great swaths of water. Vanuatu is a series of islands, and their main languages are Bislama and English and French. Bislama is a Creole language that combines English and Polynesian words that the locals speak. The capital is Port Vila, located on this island. Its land area is 4.7 thousand square miles and has a population of 292.6 thousand square miles. Vanuatu has been lived on since around 500 BC and has historically been owned by our previous friend Tonga. After Tonga were the British, who swooped in and colonized the place. Now, the British colonized most places in the Pacific, so that's not really an issue. And also, to the counterpart of the British were also the French, who were a little bit too eager to colonize the place. But ever since Vanuatu gained independence, they've been doing their own thing, which is good. Kiribati, yes, the TI makes an S sound, is a large webby mess of atolls. Their main languages are Gilbertese and English, named after the British guy that colonized the place. The capital is Tarawa, located on an atoll to the left. If you're wondering why these atolls are cut off from the rest of them, don't worry, they're still a part of Kiribati, they're just incredibly isolated and also 2,000 miles away. The total land area is 313 square miles, and the population is around 116,000 people. They were colonized in 1892 by the Brits, but ever since parting ways, Kiribati still uses a great deal of English. Now, unfortunately, the islands are sinking into the ocean, so to combat this, many residents are planting mangrove trees on the shorelines to keep water out. Smart thinking, Kiribati. The Solomon Islands are a big group of islands off the shore of Papua New Guinea, northeast of Australia. Their main language is English, and their capital is Honiara, located on the coast of this island. The land area is 11,000 square miles, and the population is around 653,000 people. They've been settled since nearly 2000 BC, but were discovered in 1568 by Europeans and did, well, you know what, to the islands. They gained independence on July 7th, 1978, and are still going strong to this very day, I hope. Tuvalu is a very small atoll country, and the main languages are Tuvaluan and English. What a shocker. The capital is Funafuti, located here on this island. This was another difficult one to find out because I don't know if there's just a town there, or if the whole island itself acts as an individual town. Anyways, the land area is only a fun 10 square miles, but with a population of around 11.5 thousand people. They gained independence in 1978 from a certain someone. Far, far before that, however, Tuvalu was settled by various Polynesian tribes who had basically settled down on the island and did their own thing, but I'm sure they fought with each other because that's usually how these Pacific Islands went. Nauru, which was a very easy island to draw, has the main languages of Nauruan and English. Its semi-capital is Yaren, but not really. See, Nauru's the only country in the world without a capital city, but Yaren is where most everything is at on the island. It's right here in the south. Nauru is very tiny at only 8.1 square miles, enough to jog around in a few hours. It has 12.7 thousand people living here, though. It used to be a British colony, but ever since branching off, most people here make money and food from fishing. And fishing is a big part on most of these islands. The cultural aspects are mostly a lot of grass skirt wearing, though. Second place, Nauru. Second place. Now, last but not least, we have the Marshall Islands, which, like the others on this list, are made up of more islands. The languages here are Marshallese and English, and their capital is Majuro on this island. Compared to Nauru, the Marshall Islands are behemoth at 70 square miles and 58.4 thousand people. Historically, the inhabitants used long, thin canoes to sail around from in between each island. That was mostly it up until 1946, when the US dropped a giant freaking nuclear bomb on Bikini Atoll for a nuclear test, which totally didn't cause any unforeseen future issues for the islanders or their water supply. Well, take care, friends. If you learned anything new about the Pacific, make sure to tell me in the comments or just shout it out loud, or don't do that because that's breaking the peace and you don't want to do that. Now, I'm sure you did learn something, and all of these countries were actually pretty interesting to learn about because you don't often hear about the Pacific. Take care, friends.